dear ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Directorate of Visiting Research Professor Program, the V.M. Salgaonkar Chair in Wildlife Studies, Goa University, and the discipline of Zoology, School of Biological Sciences and Biotechnology, Goa University, I welcome Dr. Anish Aldera, Professor Bhaskar Naik, Professor Jana, and all of you to this enlightening series of talks on wildlife studies at Goa University. To begin this inaugural function, I invite Professor Savita Kerkar, the Dean of School of Biological Sciences and Biotechnology, and the Director of VRPP to escort the dignitaries to the dais. It is an honor to be here today to listen to this most sensitive topic of discussion on wildlife studies in India. India is blessed with tremendous variety of wildlife, both terrestrial and aquatic. From the majestic elephant to the graceful tiger, the vast array of wildlife species in India is unparalleled. The importance of wildlife studies in India cannot be underestimated, as India is the home to a vast array of wildlife species. It is essential that we have a better understanding to their ecology and behavior. This can only be achieved through rigorous wildlife studies. This data can be used to inform conservation strategies, provide invaluable insights into the behavior and adaptation of species, and enable us to protect and conserve our precious wildlife. I now invite Professor Savita Kerkar to present the introductory note.
Professor Anish Aldera, Mr. Bhaskar Naik, Professor Janathan, who's always been with us as a support, and I think all of you know him. He was the previous dean and also the acting VC of Goa University for some time. So, I welcome all of you here for this lecture series. So we have a lecture series for 2 days, followed by a workshop on photography. So those who attend the lectures will get a chance to also participate in the workshop and not the workshop alone. So some of the students were asking me if they can only come for the workshop, but you have to be present for all the 3 sessions. Okay? So I welcome Professor Anish Aldera here, who has spared his valuable time to come and give us some lectures. And this is actually the beginning of our V.M. Salgaonkar chair. So we have a VRPP, which is Visiting Research Professors Program in Goa University, which has many chairs. I mean 7 chairs which are sponsored by Goa government and 3 private chairs. And out of the private chairs, we have the V.M. Salgaonkar chair for wildlife studies. We have the Punya Rivera chair for Portuguese literature, and we also have the Dalai Lama chair. So we have just finished a session last week of the Dalai Lama chair, and we have been having a marathon of VRPP lectures these days. So now we start with the V.M. Salgaonkar chair. We also have the Nana Shirgaonkar chair, where we started yesterday. And tomorrow we also have the D.D. Kosambe chair, where Dhruv Raina is coming. So he's also on the way. I think he's flying to Goa. So we've been having many lectures, and I think we have a very good response from the students. We always have a registration form, so we can keep a note of who is attending the lectures. And I think you'll have a very valuable and good insight to wildlife studies this time by attending these 2 lectures. And if you like the sessions, I would like your comments also, so we can invite him again, and also invite other wildlife people, who are involved in these studies, so that you can get a deeper insight into these studies. So welcome you once again here. Just to tell you about the 3 lectures, we have a lecture on conservation in rapidly developing nation. What can the world learn from India? The second lecture will be trapped in trade, the catastrophe
request Professor Savita Kherkar to present a basket of fruits and flowers to Dr. Anish, the visiting research professor of the VRPP program. I request Professor Kherkar ma'am to present a floral welcome to Professor Bhaskar Naik. Guest of honor. I request Professor Savita Kherkar ma'am to present a floral welcome to Professor Janardhanam sir. And I request Dr. Nitin Sawant to present a floral welcome to Professor Savita Kherkar. Light expels darkness and is a symbol of purity, knowledge and guidance. To mark an auspicious start to this event, I request the dignitaries on the dais to inaugurate the function by lighting of the traditional lamp.
There are 5.
Thank you all. I now invite Professor Savita Kherkar to introduce the chief guest, Dr. Anish Andheriya, to the gathering.
To give you a brief introduction about Professor Anish Andheriya, he is the president of the Wildlife Conservation Trust, a non-for-profit set up to preserve, protect and conserve forest and wildlife. Currently, WCT, which is the Wildlife Conservation Trust, works in and around 160 national parks and wildlife sanctuaries spread across 23 states of India and catalyzes path-breaking conservation action. He is a member of several government committees, including the National Tiger Conservation Authority, an apex policy-making body of the Union Government, the State Boards of Wildlife of Maharashtra and Jammu and Kashmir, the Maharashtra Coastal Zone Management Authority, the Executive Committee of the Gujarat State Lion Conservation Society, and Tiger Conservation Steering Committee of Madhya Pradesh. He has been awarded the prestigious Carl Zeiss Conservation Award in 2008 and an UAE Institute of Chemical Technology Distinguished Alumnus Award in 2017. He is a fellow of LEAD and has helped set up Kids for Tigers, a national wild conservation education program in 2000. The program has reached out to several million school children, and after completing his PhD from the Institute of Chemical Technology in Mumbai, he went on to pursue his Masters in Wildlife Biology and Conservation from the NCBS, Bangalore. And he is a large carnivore biologist with immense knowledge in predator-prey relationships and has contributed to several carnivore conservation projects across India. A wildlife photographer of repute, he has photographed some of the most remote wildlife reserves of India Bombay Natural History Society and a member of the advisory committee of BNP Paribas Indian Foundation. A natural communicator, he is one of India's leading motivational speakers and has introduced thousands of young people to the joys of nature and the rationale for nature conservation. So welcome once again, Dr. Anish Andheria, and welcome to Goa University. And on behalf of the Vice Chancellor and the VRPP, I give you a very warm welcome. Deliver your lecture.
I invite the guest of honor, Professor Bhaskar Naik sir, to say a few words about the VM Salgaonkar chair.
The celebrity of the day, Dr. Anish Andheria, who we have been waiting for a long time to come and address to us, Professor Savita, Janardhan Mizar, Nitin, and all the other wildlife enthusiasts who have come over here, and my dear students. Kebab mein haddi ki zarurat nahi hai, and I don't want to be a haddi in kebab because all of you are waiting just to listen to Dr. Anish Andheria. Even am I interested in the same thing, and therefore I won't take much of your time. I will only say that our chairman, Shri Dr. Salgaonkar, himself is a wildlife enthusiast. He is very much interested, and establishing a chair for the wildlife studies is his intense desire to do something for the wildlife, which he himself every year he spends a certain number of days in company of the tigers, in company of the lions, and like that. He has not been in a position to come here today because, as you are aware, sir, that he is already on his trip elsewhere outside India, and therefore he has not been in a position to come. Nonetheless, he has conveyed all his greetings to you, and we will have many more opportunities to meet again. Friends, this is a chair of a different type. I think there are 7 plus 3, 10 chairs. Of these 10 chairs, this chair is different from the rest of the chairs. Different in the sense, this is the only chair, if I am wrong, please correct, which has another component of a postdoctoral fellow. And we are looking very hopefully to you to provide us one, because we had 2-3 interviews. Though there were quite good people who were available, but somehow the type of the things that we are looking for, we are not in a position to get. So therefore we would request you also to find out a postdoctoral fellow where we will be doing, because the whole idea was that under the chairmanship of Dr. Anish Andheria, we will be in a position to guide that area. He would go, he would do the field research. End of the year, every year there will be something which will come. And at the end of 3 years, there will be some very meaningful contribution which will come as a part of this chair. It's not simply just the lectures, awareness, sensitization and all that, but it is beyond awareness, beyond sensitization. Lot many things need to be done in this area, because this is a very, very vast area. I'm a very small man. I don't know anything of the wildlife other than I lived in my own village in the company of the snakes, tigers, lions, and I was shocked. I live in a village where wild boar was a rare thing which was in the forest. Other day my caretaker told me, sir, these wild boars are coming right behind in my house, in my property. That is entry for them. There has to be some explanation for this. Maybe because we have invaded their habitats and therefore they are coming here, or maybe that they are in larger number. Anyway, I am not going into details of it because that is the job which Professor Anish Andheria, Dr. Anish Andheria will be doing. Sir, we are looking for you very, very hopefully that you will definitely provide a destination to us. This chair is for an initial period of 3 years. Maybe Rajbab since he himself is an enthusiast for this and he himself does it from the bottom of his heart, I'm sure that he won't mind proceeding further for many more years, and that this will be an ongoing chair over a period of time. Thank you very much, Professor Savita, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah, that will be better. You will enjoy it more. Take care. Thank Goa University and Srinivas Salgaonkar for inviting me here so that I could interact with people of Goa. Students here, it makes me very happy because you are going to be the torch bearers in the future. Hopefully this chair will seed interest in many more Goans. I come from Maharashtra, and Maharashtra was also like Goa about 100 years ago. And now we have developed. So Maharashtra is considered to be one of the most developed states. And that development has happened at the expense of forests. We know the shortfalls of that model. And now as I came in from Mumbai airport, I saw huge amount of development everywhere. So what the development, the tsunami of development that hit Maharashtra and other parts of India is now entering Goa. So this is a very critical time for you people because nature and human beings are interrelated. Like nature is interrelated with all other animals, but human beings are different from other animals by having that ability to start to use tools. So we are the only species that can actually create replicable models again and again, largely to damage this planet. No other species does this so professionally. Other species give back what they have got from nature. Look at those trees that you have. This campus is amazing. I would love to be a student here again. All these trees, if they are not taken out for wood, they will die here and they go back into the soil. Every single animal passes through the food chain, right? So even if it's a carnivore like a tiger, it eventually dies, and all that it has taken in, all the muscle and everything, eventually goes back into the soil. So nature recycles everything. Human being is a product of nature, but we somehow have snapped that recycling ability that we had through a magical wand that we call technology. And Goa is still a very sought after destination by most other people from India. I know so many people from Uttarakhand who come to Goa. They live in such a beautiful place, but they still like the sea, they like the forest, they like the people here. The very reason why Goa is such a enticing place is slowly being snatched away from you. You must keep that in mind. That development is important, but with the kind of technology that we have, we can now take an energy efficient route. So when, say, America developed, America is nearly 50, 60, 70 years ahead of us in the way they destroyed their forests, eventually built all those big cities, and now they are funding detrimental projects in other countries, right? So Europe and America have done this 200 years ago. India is my interest in participating in this program is to really talk to the next generation in Goa, to tell them that they should start defending their environment. We are all species that want to pass on our gene into the next generation, right? And then the next. But if we are planning children, if we are planning grandchildren, then we have to gift them this planet in the way we have got, or in a better condition. What we are doing is exactly opposite of that. We are reproducing, but we are not protecting the environment from where all the oxygen and water is coming from. And so, through this particular program and the chair, I think you are fortunate that you will have sessions with a lot of other conservationists, practitioners, wildlife biologists, sociologists, because conservation is not just an activity done by biologists. A big role is played by sociologists as well, because I work on tigers for many years, but tigers don't understand my language. Okay, I try to interpret what tigers are thinking, but I am not a tiger, so I will always have there is a gap. So when you want to protect the tiger, you work with the government, you work with local communities who live with the tigers, you work with the guides and the drivers who take safaris inside. So you are working with people so that tigers can survive. So which means conservation is an amalgamation of biology, law, sociology, yeah. Now even engineering. I'll tell you why. So it's a very, very complex field, and you should be happy to know that you don't have to be a botanist or a zoology to conserve nature. You can conserve nature in your backyard anyways. If you have land here, make sure that that land remains forested. But if you want to play a bigger role and want to start an organization or work with someone else, don't worry if you haven't taken botany or zoology. If your heart beats for nature, and if you have taken a good graduation degree, you can go eventually work for nature. So keep that in mind, and now I'll move on with today's talk. As I said, that India is developing at a very rapid rate, and this story is about the conservation action that India has taken up, and what can the world learn from India. So I told you about the problems of India. There are many, but something unique has happened here, which has not happened anywhere else. And this is about that story, because at the end of the day, I may tell you about the problems, but I am an optimistic person. And you can't just keep focusing on problems, you have to talk of solutions, because solutions bring people together. If I am cribbing here, I will say for the next 1 hour, if I am only going to talk why we are destroying this planet and the world is going to go, you say, "Arey, world jaane wala, let me do something." So मैं जाती हूँ, let me play with my friends, or let me go and eat somewhere, let me go and travel to places that I want to. Why should I worry about doing it? So optimism is everything, and India has shown the world. Although I am not trying to say that India has solved all the problems, but India has all the problems that the world can think of, yet India is able to do something. And what is that something is what we'll try and understand. So to give you context, there is crisis. We all know about this crisis. We keep reading newspapers every day. You open the newspaper today and you will hear about more than 200 fire incidences in Goa. You know those fires have not happened naturally. You should know that they are all man-made. And those are man-made because people from different walks of life want something for themselves. Some people want to destroy the forest so that they can do their agriculture there. Somebody wants to destroy the forest because they can grab that land and maybe build a building tomorrow. Somebody is doing it because they are angry with the forest department, that why did they stop us from entering the forest and kill the wild pig or the shekru, which is a giant squirrel. And so they are angry and they are burning the forest. Right? Think about a mother. If I have to fight a mother, able-bodied mother, it's not easy. But if I know that her weakness is her children, so if I grab one of her children, she'll pretty much do what I want her to do. So So forest is like that. The forest department is in charge of the forest, but when they try to stop people, or once if they catch a poacher, communities will go and straight away attack the forest, because the forest is a vulnerable organism which doesn't have a leg or an arm to fight. Right? It is there vulnerable, and they know that they can get even with the forest department or the government by doing that. So these fires that you see are for various reasons. Most or 100% of them are man-made. Remember that. Obviously today is very hot, and that also adds to it, because if I light a fire now, it can spread much faster. Okay? So, but this crisis is not limited to India. Fires have happened all over the world. I'll tell you more about what has happened other places. But these are facts in front of you, and you can verify them. The world population has tripled in the last 70 years, and the demand for water has gone up sixfold. In the same time, the amount of water that's there on the surface of planet Earth, surface, I'm not talking about underground, I'm not talking about sea. The volume of water in the sea remains constant. What is changing is surface water in the rivers. Rivers are drying. You are from Goa, and you know, if you have not seen it, but your parents and your grandparents will always keep telling you. Beta, when I was growing, this river was flowing all throughout the year. Now this river is not flowing, or the flow in the river has gone down. Do you hear these things? How has that happened? The amount of rain falling on this planet remains the same, because evaporation is happening. But where it falls depends on how much forest cover there is, and now even climate change. There are other issues there, but I don't want to complicate matters, so I am keeping it as simple as possible for us to understand. So the demand for water, and when I say demand for water, it is not water for construction or water for agriculture. It is demand for water in terms of drinking. Okay, and obviously crops do come in, because we have to support more than 7 billion people on this planet, and that comes with its added burden. And water, of course, is very, very important, especially in a country like India. Simultaneously, as this is happening, so the demand for water has gone up, the amount of water has gone down, right? Then what has happened? Because of all the degradation, which means forest fires that are lit by people, developmental projects that come and convert forest into non-forest, construction is happening everywhere. Then sand mining. You know sand mining? What is it? This sand is being taken from rivers to build houses. Goa may not have that problem, because Goa is on the sea, and you must be using the sand coming from the sea largely. Like Bombay uses a lot of, you also use sand. So all that sand is coming from the rivers. And what is the sand? Sand is the eroded top soil upstream. It is not manufacturing. The earth doesn't manufacture sand. It just, when water flows down, it collects topsoil. Now the amount of sand generated by the river changes based on how much tree cover there is upstream, which means what we call catchment. You are all biology students, so you understand catchment, right? The area where the trees are growing. If that remains as is, the amount of soil in the water remains constant. It's only during the first few rains that you will have brown water. But after the first 10 days or 15 days, the water becomes clear. Every time it rains, there will be some amount of brown color, but it goes. But now, because the forests are going, the topsoil is getting washed away. And almost in Western Ghats you have, the topsoil is not very thick. It's very thin layer of soil. So all the nutrition is there in the humus, which means all the leaves and all those dead and decaying material. All that gets washed away. Once it gets washed away, because the soil layer is thin, nothing much can grow, or only those plants can grow which are very hardy. The native flora and fauna will disappear. And so, because of these things, all across the world, the Living Planet report, which is a very serious report, is a compilation of research work done by thousands of people. So it's a review. Okay, so somebody was studying koala bears, somebody is studying reindeers, somebody is studying gorillas, somebody is studying river ecosystems, somebody is studying oceans. All those papers have been reviewed, And they have come to a conclusion that 60% decline in population of vertebrate species has been seen in just 45 years. 60% of populations have gone. Doesn't mean extinction. It means that if, say, 60% of the populations of vertebrates have gone down. So if there were 100 individuals, today there are 40. And this is across vertebrate systems. And when we talk of vertebra, you know what it is. So vertebrates are what? Birds, reptiles, amphibians, mammals. Underwater? Fish, right? You have mammals underwater as well, right? So all those put together, and when those are large bodied normally, when you talk of microbes, they are very small. We are not even looking at those. But when you talk of vertebrates, these are large bodied. Why are we talking about them? Because their body size is comparable to human beings. So we can compare, it's a proxy. It's scary. And 19 of the last 20 years are the warmest in record. So now you have a layer of climate change. Minus climate change, also human beings are damaging to the planet. But now, with climate change added to it, the problem is that much more because we still don't understand how climate change plays out. And if you read textbooks, they will tell you that 1 degree rise in temperature in equator is 12-degree rise in temperature in the poles. And poles is where most of your ice is. So either you go up from equator to pole, or you go altitude-wise, which means from the base of the Himalayas to the top. Ice is melting. And when ice melts in Arctic is floating ice, Antarctic is land ice. When floating ice melts, nothing much happens because it's floating. So the volume doesn't change. But when land ice melts, that volume of water is being added to the sea. When ice up in the mountains, which means Andes, Rockies, Himalayas is the largest, those glaciers are melting in Himalayas. In the last 50 years alone, 2,200 glaciers have disappeared. We are sitting pretty in Goa, in Bombay, we are having pub life and everything. We have our refrigerators creating ice for us every day, renewable ice. But when ice melts up in the glaciers, the immense pressure it puts on availability of water, because many of the Himalayan river streams are fed by ice water. And so much of human population, forget about wildlife, live in the mountains and they are dependent for agriculture on that water. It's not the Western Ghats. Western Ghats there is no ice. So whatever you have is because of the rain and the forest. The forest is capturing that rain and slowly allowing water to seep out through springs. So if you went up in any of your, say, Madhi, if you went to any of your reserves, Kotigaon, you will see there are springs right in the middle of the jungle, even in summer, where the water is trickling out. Where is it coming from? It's coming from the rains that fell last year. But why is it that the water is still available? Because the root systems are loosening the soil, allowing the water to go in, and then the water that enters from the top slowly emerges in through the springs in the valley. This happens all across the mountain, but now that is changing. So this is again extremely worrisome. If business as usual happens from now on, which means whatever I am saying, we don't pay any attention to, we continue to develop the way we do, we will have by 2030, which is how many years away? 7 years from now, 140 million climate refugees. 140 million is 14 crore. You understand 140 million? 14 crore people will move from where they are living to another place. Have you seen a refugee? In Goa, have you seen? Have you? So we don't see refugees because in our head refugees are those that we see when we read in the newspaper that 1,000 people moved from Guatemala into Mexico, and then from Mexico into America. So those are people who are migrating, immigrants, and people think those are refugees. But refugees you see in every city. If you go to Goa also, you will see in the city people who are begging. What are they? You ask them, where are you from? They will say, my parents used to live in the village up in the mountains in Goa, but now we have nothing much left, and so I have come with my children here. And I am doing menial jobs. Somebody is working in your house as a house help. And those you don't consider as refugees. But the fact that they are cleaning your ship, you have to imagine that they must be going through hell. Would you do that job for anybody? But people are doing that for you willingly, happily. Why? Because no self-respecting human being will go and just keep cleaning toilets. But the fact that they are doing it, there are people who are forced into this. And many of those people are because environment is failing them. Lands are not as productive as possible. They are in a perpetual cycle of debt. So whenever we talk of biodiversity, whenever we talk of climate change, whenever we talk of tigers, you have to understand the social ramifications of all that. It's not just about the species. My training, I'm a chemical engineer. I didn't come into this field to just save the tiger. I came in because the complexity of this is such that unless people from different walks of life come in, we will not be able to solve a problem. A biologist alone cannot even scratch the surface. So remember, flashpoints. So when you have refugees, which means people who have lost everything, the best refugee example that we have, or I think for us it's the worst, that when India and Pakistan, there was a partition, people who lived on the other side of the border lost everything, and they had to overnight move with their families. They came just with their children and some thelas into India, in Delhi, in some areas, and eventually got settled there, right? When that happens, back then, the crisis had not yet hit us. This is many years ago, right? But now, when you leave everything and come, you get exploited because there is competition. And people who are competing with you have already been living in the city much more than you do. So if you are a refugee meaning an immigrant who comes from a place where now they cannot have a crop, they have lost a lot of money, they are in debt, eventually they run away or they commit suicide. You keep hearing about farmer suicide, right? What is it? It is because of all these issues, right? So when people come out and reach a city, and then they have to suddenly start competing and doing jobs which they have never been trained for. There is huge amount of exploitation. Exploitation in terms of money, which means a person from Goa who lives in Goa will charge a certain amount for that job. But somebody from Andhra who comes into Goa will do that same job in a cheaper rate, right? Those are the people who eventually get pushed. And when you lose everything, the only final thing, if you see a kid, a daughter or a son of yours starving at home, and you are a self-respecting person, you eventually get angry and you snatch. So terrorism that we think of, we talk of Naxalism and all that, they are the same species as humans. They have been so frustrated, and when young people are frustrated, the bad elements will utilize that frustration to divert their energies into wrong things. So terrorism and environmental degradation are connected, and research has been done as to what are those countries where terrorism is actually popping up. And all those countries are ones where water crisis, forests or natural ecosystems have been damaged. And those countries that didn't have money to start with. So if it's a developing nation and on top of it they destroy the water systems and the forest, that's it. Then they will go and try to live in a country which gives them a better lifestyle, but not everybody is lucky to go and live abroad. So those people then have so much of pent-up energy that wrong elements will utilize that. So flashpoints, violence, big, all these terrorist outfits are young people who had nothing to do. Finally, we are talking about tree cover loss, and it's very, very relevant to Goa because today is the day when we just read. I entered Goa and I read that newspaper. It was hard, it was shocking for me to read. 16 million hectares, which is 160,000 square kilometers of tree cover was lost in 2017 alone. This is the data which is older, but I will give you more data for that. In 2019 too, 12 million hectares of tree. Also read the one which is in red, 12 million hectares and 11 in 2021. So all in average, we are losing 1,20,000 square kilometers of forest. Can anybody tell me the area of Goa?
3,700 square kilometers.
3,700. So let us, in all practical purpose, say 4,000. How much are we losing? 30 times the size of Goa. Forest is lost every single year, and whether it was COVID year or it was non-COVID didn't matter. Which means the total forest cover on this planet has gone down drastically over the last 30-40 years. That is the reason why you have 60% decline in vertebrate populations. Because when forest goes, river goes. So all the biodiversity in the river goes. When river goes, the ocean also goes. This is again one more important thing that you Goans have to understand, that there is never surplus water in the river. When somebody says that there is extra water going into the sea, it is getting wasted. Without that fresh water entering the sea, you will not have nurseries, which means fish breed in those estuaries. And many of those fish which are commercially viable are actually breeding in murky waters where nutritious energy or nutrient-laden fresh water meets the ocean. Those are the most nutritious parts of this planet. And if you don't have rivers getting into the sea, you will have a collapse of marine fisheries. In India, 30% of Indians are still dependent on fisheries, either as a profession or for protein. And protein, I am talking about cheap protein, where the coolies are actually going in and killing and hunting fish alone. I mean, today. If that is taken away from them, they have nothing else to eat. And there are so many coastal communities across the country. So, when forests are going, automatically remembers rivers are getting affected, polluted, eroded, land is eroded, sea is getting affected. So, everything that you read here has connection with biodiversity, has connection with forests, has connection with rivers, oceans, farmlands, livelihoods, and overall the social unrest. And you know, this law and order situation that we see petty crimes. In Goa, it's one of the safest cities or states. But haven't you seen an increase in petty thefts, people entering the house, killing an old person for money, or somebody misbehaving with tourists? It was unheard of when I was going. Why is that happening? All that is connected. So remember that. Don't just read the headlines. Try to go deep into it and you will understand the issues. I am going slow in the first few slides because this is the crux of the matter. It's not the success story, but why is that success story so important, and we have to be proud of that. But just being proud will not help because India is also now failing in many ways. This is a story which has peaked and it is success story, but now we suddenly start seeing that there is degradation everywhere. 1.8 gigatons of carbon dioxide emissions are associated with primary forest loss, which means this 2019, 12 million hectares has gone. With it, carbon dioxide has, so much carbon dioxide has entered the atmosphere. So at one end, we are pumping carbon dioxide, which is a greenhouse gas, into the atmosphere. On one hand, we are reducing the forest, which is actually capturing carbon dioxide. So the influence of human beings is double One, by reducing forest cover, so reducing the sequestration ability of the ecosystem and pumping so much carbon dioxide into the atmosphere by cutting those forests. You know that some studies have shown that every tree trunk is nearly 50% by weight of carbon, and it's all taken from the atmosphere. But equivalent amount of carbon is present in the soil. So when the forest goes and the soil gets exposed to the sun, all that carbon dioxide gets added. Or every single wetland has 20 times more carbon sequestered in it than land. So all your marshland, there is so much carbon because all the decaying plant matter and everything is there. And not only carbon in terms of methane, and methane is 22 times more dangerous than carbon dioxide when it comes to climate change. One molecule of methane creates the kind of heat or the enveloping on this planet which is 22 times more than a carbon dioxide molecule. And a lot of this methane is being thrown when we reclaim marshlands. Now coming to, that was a global crisis. Now let's think about what is happening in India. 1.4 billion people we are, and all these people have aspirations. Each one of us, if I were to give you a paper and say what do you want to do, most of you will have a unique answer, and it will be to either have more money or I have meetings with people. I always see that there is this kind of anger in people from India or China. We keep saying that, but our footprint is hardly anything. Why are you teaching us? But now at least we have the understanding. When those guys went and destroyed everything 200 years ago, they didn't know. Science was not so developed at that point. Now with all those mistakes, we know what it can do. After that, if we continue to develop in a trajectory which is injurious to the environment, nobody will forgive us. 4% of world's renewable water only, and we are 18% of the world human beings. So there is so less water in India, and we are 18%. And 40 is renewable water. Can anybody tell me? Rainwater. Rainwater. Renewable. Every year you can get rain, so it's renewed. So this means surface water. Lakes and rivers. 3 million people live in India's 52, now it's 53 tiger reserves. So I am giving all these numbers, it will keep, you will remember them. 53 tiger reserves here only. But in those tiger reserves, when Goa doesn't have a tiger reserve. But have you ever been to a tiger reserve? You know of any tiger reserve? Corbett. So Corbett Tiger Reserve, it says tiger reserve. Does it mean that there are no human beings inside? Where? In the buffer zone. So every tiger reserve has core and buffer. In core you have forest department, some tourists going in, and in some tiger reserves you also have people. But there is huge population in the buffer zone which is inside the administrative limit of the tiger reserve. So if you add all those people, it is 3 million people inside, 100 million people around. And these are people who depend up to 40%, their daily subsistence of up to 40% comes from the forest. There are 100 million people who are dependent on tiger reserves, which most people think are only for tigers. So think about other areas. 60% of Indians are farmers. This photograph is from inside a tiger reserve. It is Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve. Can anybody tell me that is the tiger? I am standing on a hill. It is relatively green. The moment I go there, this is the river. And in between there are these agriculture fields, some huts here, there is some amount of fencing. Then there is irrigation. They have village tanks. So they are able to take these crops. And I had gone there in say Jan. So it was winter time, already the forest was dry. But there is water outside because people are able to benefit from irrigation. So you have greenery there. Obviously a deer and the wild pig will go there. And a tiger will go there to drink water from the river. But in between the river and the forest there are people. So when that happens, people and tiger will come face to face, and once in a while an attack will happen. And when a human being and a tiger fights, it is like me fighting with a 3-year-old. There is no battle. But that is happening because we are baiting the tiger. Baiting in the sense we are putting water somewhere, the tiger are somewhere, in between there are people. Obviously there will be problem. The deer will also go out. So this is a typical Indian scenario. Inside the tiger is a buffer zone. 60% of Indians are farmers. So remember that. Farmers still, farming is the most prevalent occupation today. Even now, when we talk of education and everything, there are a lot of people. Of the 60% of Indians, 85% are subsistence farmers, which means these are farmers with smaller land holdings, which means it could be your uncle, it could be your neighbor, and they will have a land which is less than 2 hectares. That is called subsistence farmers. When you have such small lands, the yield of that land will not be enough for you to go and sell in the market. It will be subsistence farming, which means you grow something and you eat, or you exchange it for something else. So it's not going into the granaries of nation, it is only somehow managing that family, giving them some nutrient. And with climate change and all the, like the wild pigs coming, deer coming and grazing on it, and generally monsoon failing, the yield has gone down. So 85% of 60% farmers. So when you say 60%, it's huge numbers. Okay? So how much is 50% of Indian population? 700 million. And 85% of, so that will be almost 650 million people are dependent on that rain. And that rain is failing them. Either it's flooding their villages or there are droughts. So their yield is going down and they are in a perpetual cycle of debt. Then we are also developing rapidly. We have the second largest road network after the great United States. We are building highways, and Goa is a great example. We at this point in time are building 24 kilometers of 4-lane or 6-lane highways per day in the country. And the aim is to reach 44 kilometers per day. So when you have highways, and why are we building highways? Because we believe that with highways, better connectivity, every single village will have an opportunity for livelihood. And there are a big issue with that. Today's talk cannot cover it because that is a discussion of another 6 hours. But we can discuss this if some of you are interested later on. But just road will help them, definitely. It helps in medical facilities, it helps in providing good education. But if roads are coming at the expense of natural capital, this is a man-made capital, and it is coming at the expense of natural capital, which means forests, then it is a problem. Because you are destroying those forests which are going to give you oxygen for the remaining 1,000 years. Instead of that, you have a highway which is giving you some access, but no forest at that point. And remember, highways are like, I mean, it's not as bad as cancer, but if you go and look at some interesting research done on the impact of road networks on forests, there are some interesting studies done in Brazil. So go online and see road network, forest degradation, and type Brazil, when you see that they have taken remote sense images and superimposed them. So for the last, say, 50 years, and they run that, so one image per year, how a single road has eventually led to the degradation of the entire forest, because once a road comes, then it's easier to cut big wood and take out those woods out. So bigger trees can go because the vehicles can go right inside, and then once they go, then the people who are into that business will start staying there. When they start staying there, then they will need food, which means they will start cutting more forests so that they can cultivate. They will need medicine, they will need alcohol, they will need all those things, and slowly you will have a petrol pump there, you will have chai wala, you will have jua wala, and that will start degrading. So one road slowly then goes perpendicular and destroys the forest faster than you can think. Today, because of COVID, we know that these kind of roads are also reasons why epidemics and pandemics happen, because we suddenly get exposed to microbes which are there in the forest but which are kept in check because of natural cycles, which means predators will kill animals, and those animals who are carrying that virus may die and they will not be able to access human beings. But today, because we have penetrated into the jungle, there is no forest of Goa that a human being is not walked. Not a single millimeter of Goan forest is uncharted. As highways go up, you can see, and not only highways, this is about linear infrastructure, railways, highways, canals and power lines. Four things which are linear, they, if not constructed at the right place and with the right amount of mitigation, can be devastating for the country. And today, all governments, not only Indian, they think that the ticket to development is better roads, faster trains, bigger canals, so that there is water everywhere. But they don't understand that a dam is only a vessel. The water is manufactured by nature, and nature means forests and seas and the action of the wind and everything that's happening there, right? So if that rains fails, no matter how many dams you have, you will have no water. And where are the dams built? They are all built in the forest and in place of trees. So all those forest valleys are submerged, which means millions of trees go underwater where a dam is built. And that dam goes dry when monsoon fails. Climate change, I will not go and talk, but this fire is big. The fires that you see now are far more deeper, are far more stronger than 20 years ago. They are far more prevalent. You know of the fire that happened in Australia 2 years ago. It went on for 3 months. Every year California and that area burns. In India, every single non-PA, non-protected area and forest is burnt by villagers to clear off the bushes, either so that grass can sprout again for cattle, or they can collect maua or tendupatta, minor forest produce. So the undergrowth is burnt so that they can easily detect those flowers that have fallen. And they don't burn the forest directly, but they burn the undergrowth, and the undergrowth, because of climate change, because of the reduction in moisture in the soil and in the air, the fires are far more deeper. When I say deeper, it means it also affects the hardwoods. In the past, the fires would be just the surface fires where it would burn the leaf litter. Now they are catching the big trees as well. And so every year, hundreds of thousands of hectares of forest are burned by people for their subsistence. As a result, you have droughts, as a result, you have so many other things. And finally, there is this challenge because the forest is going down. So if in Goa, forest went down, what will happen? The leopards will go where? The leopards will come into the city because they will need food. That food, initially in the jungle, they used to kill bekar, which is barking deer, or monkeys, and if wherever possible, spotted deer or fawns of sambar and pigs. Now the forests are degraded, and you have too many dogs outside. So the leopards find it very easy to go and kill a dog, and so their population will. See, in the jungle, a leopard has to kill means it will have to kill a wild animal. And the wild animal instinctively knows how to evade a leopard. So there is a balance, and so the leopard has to spend so much energy, which means the number of babies that can reach adulthood is far less in in the night, the dog will आएगा, बस लोग रुकेगा, एक को उठाएगा चला जाएगा. And the babies will get food every day, and all the leopard babies will reach adulthood. As a result, you will have more leopards than you had when the forests were good. So it's counterintuitive. We think that forest will go, animals will go. No, most animals will go, but those animals that benefit from human beings will go up, and when they go up, they will cause imbalance because there is nothing to balance them out. So when forest degrades, actually the population of leopards go up. Because human beings will supplement. So human beings, we run what is called fast food centers. So we will have our garbage cans everywhere, cow pure and feco. That will breed rats, that will have dogs, and leopards will have fast food. And leopards will do well. Eventually leopard will kill a human being, and there will be noise, and they will burn the forest. Jungle se nahi hua hai. You burn the houses from where the garbage has gone. But we think jungle se aaya. Actually aisa nahi hai. So human wildlife conflict has gone up when the forest has more degraded, because animals, some of those species have either moved out, like elephants. Elephants are big animals. They can weigh 4 kg, 4 tons. And when the forests are there, they will travel through the forest. But now that the forests are degraded and they need a lot of water, summer water is not there up in the mountains, so they will have to go in the valleys. But valleys are the places where human beings are staying because there is water all throughout the year. So which is the best wildlife habitat? The valley. Because there is river in the valley and there is flat land in the valley. That's where most animals would want to be. But human beings have already occupied it. Because for us also the best land is flat, where there is water, so that we can do our agriculture. So now when forest is degraded, those animals, to meet their energy needs, will have to go in search of food, and the only place they can get food is in your farmland. And so there is direct conflict between elephants and farmers. And farmers, I told you, 85% are subsistence farmers. These are poor people who are already taking loans so that they can cultivate something. And then you have an elephant who comes and in a night destroys what you have sown and guarded for 2-3 months. You can imagine the turmoil of that person, and therefore people then throw fire on elephants. You have seen those photos? People put crackers in the mouths of elephants, and that elephant when dies in the water. Remember that mother and calf story in Kerala? But people are misplaced. Their emotions are misplaced. They see, oh, how come this has happened? But the background to that story, backstory is more important. That farmer is probably the least of the problem. That farmer is anyways going to commit suicide, and he removes his anger on the elephant, but not the white elephant that's there, which is the way we run our country, which means the way we run our cities, where there is so much inequity, where the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. There is a problem there. Now that's not the elephant, but the anger falls on the elephant, because that's the low-hanging fruit. So remember the psychology of people, and this is again a big issue, because you see all those villagers. These are all people who have no role to play in this. The forest is degraded because we need more water, therefore more dams, therefore less forests. And poor people who live there already are in bad situation, and then you have a tiger during the harvesting season in the farm. You have to harvest your crop. There is a fixed time in which you have to do the harvest. If a tiger moves with her cubs in your farm, your entire year mehnat will go in drain, right? That's the reason why people want to kill the tiger. But this is happening over and over again all across. And now in India, which is actually a peace-loving country, I have started seeing people who are actually burning leopards and tigers alive. So in Uttarakhand, Uttarakhand is considered to be God's own place. People are up in the mountains, and most of us say, "Arey mountain ke log bahut pyare hote." There, near Nainital, there was a leopard that used to that attacked people, and I think 2 people died, and then the forest department came and trapped the animal. The moment the animal got trapped, people came with kerosene. The animal is actually inside the cage, which means it's no longer going to threaten them, but there is so much anger, And a lot of it coming from local politicians who will create, this kind of anger. See, this is what has happened. This is that particular person has left this in this village so that it can kill that person. All those stories will come up. They and men who were coming in, obviously the forest department stopped them. So women took the kerosene from their hand and they went and actually burned that leopard live inside the cage. And it's scary because if we started doing this tomorrow, we start doing it to people as well. And so for me, wildlife, the forest is actually giving me information about how human beings are going to be with ourselves. This is just an indicator of what's happening in the future. So it's actually a kind of a telescope which is telling us what's coming our way. So therefore it's happening in front of me. If we take cues from here, we'll be able to solve things. Wildlife trade, people all know about it. It's happening for hundreds of years, but it is the fourth largest illegal trade on earth. After human trafficking, drugs, counterfeiting, notes, money, then comes wildlife trafficking. Trillions of dollars worth of live and dead animals are being trafficked illegally across international borders. And it is a currency in which terrorists deal with, even people who are smuggling drugs will. Because see, if I'm a drug mafia, and if I want to buy cocaine, I don't have cash with me. Because how will I get money? Right? I cannot keep withdrawing money from the bank. So it's risky to carry money. So what will I do? I will bring 2 tusks or a horn of a rhino from somewhere and I will barter. So I will say, you keep this rhino horn, which is 2 crores, and you give me 2 crores worth of drugs. So it's barter, no money exchange. Similarly, people are trafficked with the help of tiger skins, rhino horns, elephant tusks and all that. Drugs, ammunition, all this. So in Kashmir, where battles are being fought, there are snow leopards that are being killed and AK-56 being smuggled by giving those snow leopard skins. So illegal wildlife trade, you can see those photos of pangolins. Thousands of pangolins, tons of pangolin scale is being smuggled out of Africa and some of it in India to China because it's considered to be wrongly considered to have medicinal property. It has no medicinal property, it is made of the same material that is in your nail. So हम nail खाते हैं कुछ होता है क्या हमारे? But those guys have created the market because in China they used to obviously there was huge smuggling of tiger and elephant and all that. But now that the numbers of tigers and the elephant, there is a moratorium on it. There is not much to do, so they have diverted the attention to something which was available and which looks unique. So it was easy for them to fool people. And as a result, you have pangolin trade that's increased, and the population of pangolins has dropped by 97% globally. At least in Africa and India, we don't even know. Goa has pangolins, but nobody knows how many. So we don't know how much is going. And they are not very difficult to catch because they live in burrows. You meet dogs, dogs can smell them, and eventually when you go to the burrow, you burn it outside, it fumigates, and they suffocate and come out. And it's very easy to catch them. It's happening under your nose, you don't even realize. So, now I'll take another 10 minutes and then we'll have some question answers. So, you understood where I'm coming from, the global crisis. We are having crisis in the country, everybody knows. Crisis at multiple levels. Human-wildlife conflict, wildlife trade, forest degradation, requirement for water making us build more dams, which further degrades everything. Pollution that is going up, carbon dioxide that's going from the soil, population that's exploding, right? Inequity and therefore law and order situation there. There is so many things that are happening. So India is under serious threat in many ways. Yet, what have we done? So how is it that Goa still has trees in the 21st century? How is it that India still has tigers and elephants? And this is why it has, and we need to follow this its footsteps rather than changing it. You know that the Wildlife Protection Act was diluted recently, not diluted really, but amended. So these amendments are made so that it becomes easier to do development. Because it was archaic, it needed changes because it was very old, it was drafted and it was in the format of how the colonial era officers used to draft it. But now things have changed. Definitely it needs amendment. But with every amendment, there is some amount of dilution. And anyways, without amendment also we are destroying. So with dilution, a lot more can happen. But in 1972, Indira Gandhi, the late Prime Minister of India, launched what is called the Wildlife Protection Act. In the next year, that is 1973, she launched Project Tiger and she started declaring tiger reserves in 1973. Lot of national parks and sanctuaries were declared after that. So Corbett exists in 1930s also, Corbett National Park, but there were fewer parks. But post 73, lot more PAs are protected areas were declared. Then she lost power. So she, for a little while, she was not in power. And then when she came back again, she launched the Forest Conservation Act in 1980. She died in 84. So from 1972 and then 1980, these two acts are solely responsible for having forest, water, wildlife and 1.4 billion people in India. Otherwise, a lot of India would have got empty by now. We would have become like Ethiopia. So it was a simple idea. Keep the forest intact, the water will keep flowing. You cannot win elections if people don't get water, no matter who you are. So for any ruling party to be able to win elections, she knew at that point that she will have to do that. But she also knew, and her advisors had also told us that people don't take forest seriously. So you can't say forest bachao. So she created a symbol of wildlife, and that was the tiger. So tiger became an a kind of a binding agent, which we could target that there were only 1700 tigers. Let us double the tiger numbers. Where, how will you double? Not inside the zoo, in the forest, which means you have to protect the forest. Automatically water is getting protected. So the Chambal river, or the Ganges, or the Brahmaputra, or you name any river, Kaveri, Tapti, or any river, they are originating or are being fed by tiger bearing forests. Our research has shown that 300 rivers either originate from or are being fed by tiger reserves. 600 rivers of India are getting their water from forests that have tigers in them. So that was a master stroke. It was done so that there is stability. We have somewhere forgotten that now. And then we will fight elections and we will lose because you will not be able to control a crying mother who knows that her daughter is getting dehydrated and then she may not have a food. She is not scared of anything, right? So you cannot. So that's the reason why these were launched. But as a spin-off, it has really allowed us to survive in India. Otherwise, I can tell you, we would have been in a very, very tough spot. So now we have 53 tiger reserves, which is 2.4% of land area. Then what they do is, within those reserves, they have a special tiger protection force, which means there are people who are trained to protect, but tiger is just the name. To protect the tiger, you need food, which means deer. To protect the deer, you need to protect the forest and the grasslands. And when you do that, automatically you are protecting a million other organisms that live. Then there is patrolling. So you see this photo is from Dudhwa Tiger Reserve in Uttar Pradesh, which is in the Nepal-India border. Those guards are patrolling. Now you have the GPS with every single guard. Every step that they take inside the forest is recorded by the GPS and they can log it. Eventually they can all compile and within a week the park director will know which are the areas of the park where patrolling is not good enough. So they can keep changing people. In the past, there are anti-poaching camps. So if this is a forest, you will have some anti-poaching camp dispersed all across. So if you have these tiles here, say these are all grids inside the forest, you will have one anti-poaching camp per tile, and let us imagine that this tile, as this area is about 50 square kilometers or 25 square kilometers. So there was one anti-poaching camp per 25 square kilometers, one guard and 3 or 4 watchers, and they are expected to cover. So if it's a mountainous area, they will only walk in those areas where the gradient is not high, because every day they will not go up and down. So they were not patrolling well. But now with the GPS, and there is a limit, they have been told to walk based on the terrain some fixed amount of kilometers, because of which they are able to now protect. That's the reason why you see that the tiger numbers are going up. All you have to do is walk and protect. Protecting, if you walk, then poaching goes down. There is an all India tiger estimation happening every 4 years. No other country in the world conducts, and the government is conducting, obviously with the help of researchers in Wildlife Institute of India and NGOs like us, like we give them data for Central India. But that particular exercise happens every 4 years, and they estimate tiger densities and leopard densities and deer and all that in 3.5 lakh square kilometers of India. So that's the kind of magnitude of protection or of estimation. So the numbers are far more accurate now than 20 years ago. All deaths of tigers, or for that matter endangered species, are considered as poaching unless and until the forest officer is able to prove that it was natural. In the past, they used to say, so if you go to the forest, there is some tiger is there, they say, "Arey, they fought with each other and that tiger died." Now, that is not possible. A tiger is dead, even if it is natural, you have to prove that it's natural. Otherwise, it will be considered as poaching and it will be your responsibility. So that is the pressure that the forest department has now from people, because of which you will have better protection. Frontline forest staff. This is in Kaziranga. This is loaded with rhinos, and you have foot patrolling there. They have guns, of course, but they will never shoot the rhino. They will shoot in the air. But these are people who are hired from communities that live inside the park or around the park, which means that the communities automatically feel for the forest, because they know that the livelihood is coming from the forest directly. So that is again very interesting, not done in many places. If you go to Africa, you will have special trained military people, and they will shoot at sight, and that creates so much of anger between communities and the forest that whenever they get an opportunity, they will kill wildlife. Whereas in India, because it is protected by the villagers, there is not so much of anger. There is, but not so much, because their livelihood comes from there. Thousands of people, daily wage, so road construction inside the forest. Every monsoon, water will wash away roads, meaning those montable or roads on which patrolling is done. They hire people from communities on daily wages to build those roads. During fire season, they will hire villagers to go and fight fires or keep watching for fires so that they don't go out of control. So there is a lot of livelihood generation because of forestry activity. And that also increases the relationship, improves the relationship between communities and forest. Compensation. So if a cow or a buffalo or a goat or a sheep, any livestock is killed by a leopard or a tiger, and if it is inside the village, it is compensated, which means immediately they will estimate the age, the gender and the market value and give, I think, 50% to 70% of the weight of their cattle. And you know that in India, most of our cattle are dung cattle, they are not milk cattle. So in the jungle that all those emancipated cows are walking, those don't give milk, they give dung. And 50% of dung falls in the forest, 50% falls in their backyard in the night, and that's the dung they use to make pancakes so that they can cook. So it's the most inefficient way of using forest. And that forest is supposed to be for deers. Now today livestock is eating that, and all it is giving is dung. If it gave milk, at least the livelihood of the people will be much better. But now that's not so. For those cows which have no value, suddenly you have a tiger kill, they get money out of that cow. So villagers are, so, but a lot of these better governed states, the compensation is reaching on time. In fact, it is given rapidly. They don't wait, because if they waited and if people got angry, you know that tigers and leopards will come back to the kill to eat, because it cannot finish the kill in the first go. So they will kill, eat little bit, then obviously retire. Then the people will come, they're angry with the forest department. All they have to do is put some poison, and poison is what? Fertilizer or pesticide, which is anyways there with the farmers. Urea can actually kill tigers in no time. 5 rupees of urea will kill 5 tigers. If a tiger has killed a cow and she had 4 cubs, and she will kill, eat, and then go and call the cubs. All 5 of them will die with 5 rupees of urea. Yet that is not happening, because compensation is given, and because dung cattle are there, they also know that they have no value, but the government is giving money for them. So it's currently a win-win, but it's not a solution, because people's demands can go up tomorrow. People may send just, and maybe a cattle can be killed and said that it was a tiger attack. A lot of things can happen. Then joint forest management, eco-development committees. So villagers are given some funds. There is a bank account opened by the forest department. Say 50,000 rupees is kept there, and some forestry activity, or if there is tourism happening there, they will put money from tourism activity into that particular account, and the villagers can use that money for their developmental work. And this is done as a joint forest management, which means the forest where the people are staying and the forest department, they work in tandem to safeguard the forest, and there is some restrictions on it, which means the forest department will say, okay, we will give you this money, but in return we don't want you to allow the forest around your village to burn. If the forest burns, then we will stop giving you the funds. So it's a quid pro quo. It's not just free of cost. It has worked in some areas it has failed. But wherever the officers are good, where the corruption levels are low, are areas where things are good. It has not worked when the corruption at the state level is high, and then the money doesn't reach the last mile and people are not happy. So but it's an interesting thing which you see in India, which is pretty much not there anywhere else. Plus resettlement programs. You see this village, this is in Navegaon, Nazira, and the photo below that is the area where the village has been resettled. This is called voluntary resettlement, which means villagers in the past, when tiger reserves were formed, and this is in 1972, they were not even given an option. The trucks went in, their saman were thrown in the trucks and they were thrown out. It was the most barbaric way of creating forest space or cleaning up forest space. Now we have become far more sensitive, we meaning the nation, and they never force any village to go out of the forest. It is done as a voluntary activity, and every family is given a fixed amount of money if they are willing to recycle. This is a place where in Maharashtra especially amazing amount of resettlement work has happened, because the government gives 15 lakhs per family, and if the family has adult son and daughter, then and the daughter is not married, then the daughter will also get 15 lakhs, the son will also get 15 lakhs. Plus, they will get 5 times the market rate of land. So if they had 4 acres of land inside the jungle, and there will be a value to that land based on the government rates, it's not other rates. So government rates are low, but still, so if their land rate is say 1.5 lakhs, they will get 5 times that. So that money, and that money is not given as cash, it is open, a bank account is opened, that 3 people have to sign, collector, the forest department and a member of that family. Because otherwise men will take that money, buy a motorcycle, drink alcohol and blow the money away, and the woman will have no money left. And women, and as we know, a lot of you are women, that women think of the future much more than men do. Men want instant gratification. They have money, they will blow the money, they want to show off money. Women will want to hoard so that they can make sure that their children have better education, better health. So government also has made sure that these account holders are women, so that the money is secure. Otherwise, poor people, when you live in the jungle, suddenly you go out in the city and you get, say, almost 1 crore of rupees. A car company will come and say, तुमको जीरो लोन में पैसा देता है, ये लो मोटरसाइकिल लेके जाओ, तो आदमी तो सीधा रेडी हो जाएगा, फिर बोलेगा ये LCD TV. So within no time things will be bought and they will have no money. They will not have the livelihood that because they have not been trained. So lot of land holding. So you people, some of you who want to do conservation can actually work with NGOs who are trying to bridge the gap, because a family may say, I want to go out of the forest, and they get the money. But money doesn't multiply like that. You have to keep earning. But how are you going to earn overnight? For 300 years you have been doing farming, and now you are outside, so you have to do other things, right? So how do you do those things? And a lot of people want to do the glamorous side. This nobody wants to do, where you should go in and build capacity in that. So you could work on skilling projects or improve their agriculture, because a lot of them ask, they don't want money. They say, "Humko land do, land for land," because they also know that land nobody can sell easily. Money to aadmi kha jayega. So women also always ask for land, and when they have land outside, you could introduce technology so that they can earn much more, because they can then have crops which are better, drip irrigation, and all those things. So that also means conservation. And this is an amazing program. Then there are several projects, or what you call in India schemes, which is actually funny. Scheme is a negative word, but these are government programs. So Shyama Prasad Yojana in Maharashtra is where if you are a person, if you are a village that is inside the buffer zone of a tiger reserve, the fact that you have agreed to allow a tiger reserve to form and to include your village in the tiger reserve, the government gives them 25 lakhs for development, which means they can use to build a road, cement road, some solar lights, some tank for water, or whatever they want to. It's all micro planning is done by the villagers, and based on the micro plan, the money is given so that the villagers feel secure. Mostly it is used for building toilets, because in the evening when women and children go out to defecate is when tigers and leopards attack. So most of these tiger attacks happen on women and children, because women go into the forest to collect firewood, or they go to defecate after the sun goes down. Men Peshwaram ki tarah, they can go whenever they want to. So that's the again. So this Shyama Prasad Yojana is again a government program which is encouraging the people, or acknowledging the fact that they are actually paying the opportunity cost, right? So if suddenly this forest becomes forest, declared as sanctuary, and you cannot develop this area, and somebody who is outside this will have a 5-star hotel there. So I am paying the opportunity cost to allow the forest to exist, right? So government is trying to compensate that as well. So slowly, a lot of interesting things have happened, and in some states, therefore, you have better wildlife than other states. There are state national boards of wildlife. A lot of non-governmental organizations are part of it. State Board of Wildlife, which my organization is part of 4 state boards: Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, and Jammu and Kashmir. Which means, as a scientific organization, I can input in policy directly. The person who's in charge of these boards is the Chief Minister, which means the meetings that happen is with the Chief Minister as a chairman. And so therefore, the civil society has a say in the policy as well. So this is again very interesting, which doesn't happen in many places. Linear infrastructure. So this is just a typical example. I have almost reached the end now. This is Tadoba Tiger Reserve. These are the roads around it, which are all getting widened. So they were tiny roads, state roads. Now they are becoming wider. And when this was happening, the forest department, because we have been working with them, they came to us and they said that we have got this NOC ke liye application has come. Means any project proponent has to write to the forest department if they have to do anything inside the forest. It's called a NOC, no objection certificate. So the forest department will know. So they said, hey, this has come. We are sure that in 2-3 years this entry is going to become big. So they told us to go and collect data, because we had already done it for a highway and really did some excellent work. So we went and did camera trapping in this area. You can see all the green is the corridor. The purple, this is the tiger reserve. This is another sanctuary, this is another sanctuary, and these are all corridors. So this, everything here, there are a lot of tigers and other species. So we put camera traps in these areas to understand which are those locations from which animals are moving. So like in Goa, you are building these roads. So like that, before the roads came, because we came to know, in collaboration with the forest department, we put up all the cameras, and for a year we collected data. So when this came up, this road, just to give you scale, from here to here, this is 65 kilometers. So we surveyed the entire thing, not here, but this area. This itself is almost 30 kilometers. Within that, so in the past, what would happen is NGOs would go and say, "Pura road highway upar se karo." Now, you don't have the money to build a bridge so that animals can pass. Even in a city, a bridge takes so many years to come. You'll have traffic jams all the time, and then they'll build a bridge 20 years after it should have actually been built. So for animals, nobody can build so many bridges. We don't have the money. So because of research, we knew exactly where this crossing were, most of them. And so we could actually tell them that instead of 30 kilometers, all you need is 5 kilometers at 300, 700 meters, 1 kilometer patches where animals are crossing. And also because we did all throughout the year, we could tell them which time. So in winter, it will cross differently because, see, movement happens because of either courtship or water. In monsoon, water is everywhere, so crossing is random. In summer, water is in few areas, so there will be more crossing in certain areas. So based on all the permutation, combination we suggested, and the government agreed to build 27 underpasses on these roads. And it is going to cost them 700 plus crores. And our project cost was 75 lakhs. So a lot of corporates, when an NGO goes and says, we want funds, they said, okay, how will you show impact? They all want impact, and overnight impact to aata nahi hai. But in the projects like this, I can show impact by saying that 1 lakh has actually got translated into 10 crores. 1 lakh investment, we got 10 crores of mitigation measure. And this is like the first time ever in the country where state highways are mitigated. And now that it is happening in one state, other states will take cue from it, and this could happen. So Goa, in fact, that's why it's very important that while all these things are happening, once the highway comes in, it will destroy. You will have gore and everything, because gore crosses. And highways, once they become big, gore movement will go, and therefore there will be population only on one side. The other side, which gets isolated, will slowly die away, and that's where your conflict will start, because there tigers or leopards will not have food. They will go and start killing livestock and people, and you will have conflict. Plus the population, there will be isolation and local extinction, and slowly you will have no animals left. So you have to see how science can be used, and easily you students can do it. It's not rocket science. So this is an underpass that the government has built on the area that we were studying. This road was a 2-lane highway since last 70 years. It is NH 44. In the past, it was called NH 7. This highway connects Nagpur to Jabalpur, and it's that main arterial highway of India. And this is Pench Tiger Reserve. So this highway was already there before the Tiger Reserve came. So when the Tiger Reserve came, obviously they will not move the highway. But when you widen the highway, obviously you will have to take more land on both sides. So there was huge battle, and we were anyway studying in this area. We were estimating tiger density. So that data set, I actually boarded a flight with the Chief Minister of Maharashtra, because I came to know his Principal Secretary told me that he's traveling to Nagpur. And so obviously he knew me, because I was part of the State Board of Wildlife. So he said, this is the only time when you will get 1 hour of his. Otherwise, you can imagine CMs are very busy. So my office is very close to Mantralaya in Nariman Point. So when I left home, I didn't even know that I will end up in Nagpur today. But the moment I came to know, because we already had research, and I took my iPad, on which downloaded the PPT and boarded the flight. And then I sat next to him and I spoke to him for almost 30-35 minutes. in the flight. And after that, he in fact got so interested, he asked me so many more questions. At that point, he decided that I will make sure that that flyover comes, because all I had to prove that when this was a two-lane, which means there was no mitigation, even at that point, a two-lane is hardly anything, and we think that two-lane se kuch nahi hota hai. But our study showed that there was no female, no tigress that was using both sides of the road. Only males, and that too there were 3-4 males that would cross the highway. And lot of these animals were even dying. So males were dying on the road also. And lot of other animals were dying. Plus, when you have an impact of that level, the person in the car also dies. So it's not just the animals. You can imagine a boar being hit by a Maruti 800. Kya hoga Maruti 800? So it is not just saving wildlife, it's also saving human life. So when you talk to the policy makers, you can't just talk about tigers. You have to see what works, because see, tigers don't vote. People vote. So you have to make a case for humans as well. So when we showed that work and we said, what is happening for the last 70 years, already this population is almost fragmented. With this 6-laning, which is being touted as a bad thing, you can actually reverse, because with the underpass, the blockage which was there, because the 2-lane will also go. So this is an opportunity, I said, for the government to say that this is a greenfield highway and it is actually undoing what was done 60 years ago. And today there is a paper by us, because once this underpass was built, this photo was taken by a drone. So when this underpass was built, every pillar, the underpass pillar, we had put a camera trap. So while we said that you build this, but we also wanted to make sure that we are not overdoing it, because say finally money is, so if I will say you should have 300 meters, do you actually need 300 meters or even 100 meters is okay? Because eventually science should help in saving money as well, right? So that's how we went. So the government was welcoming, because they didn't think of us as activists who say, "Arey, ye mat karo, wo mat karo." We said, let's sit, let's see how we can reduce cost, at the same time not be an impediment to movement. And today, our research has proven that in some of these areas, tigers are crossing 200 times in a year. So last month I went, and this was a random visit to actually see our pangolin project. We are also studying pangolin. We are the only organization here in the country that has radio tagged pangolin. So I had gone, because I was passing for some meetings, so I went to meet my team. And that night I said, just let me just go. So with the forest department in their vehicle, I just went below, because actually you can't go niche. But there is a forest road, because for patrolling. So I went on the road and I saw a leopard crossing the underpass at that. You know, it was the final culmination of all the years of mehnat. When you actually see, obviously we knew because the camera trap was showing animals. But then to actually see an animal, a male leopard walking like this, you know, you miss the heartbeat. But that's what research can do. It's powerful. You just see how much money they spend. Just for this. This is the NH44. What I showed you before this is separate. Because of our good work in this project, Maharashtra government invited us to do something on this one. That was a national highway of a different, value. Then they went one step further, because they loved this. Because in other states they could talk in their presentation that this state is also doing. And therefore they started doing for the state highway. Unfortunately, COVID struck. So they had the money, but then it got diverted to health. So this is the highway construction is stopped. They have not widened it. They will widen it only when they have the money for the underpass, because the NGT has given it as a directive that unless you do the underpass, you will not be able to build this highway. So finally, natural capital I was telling you, we have 987 protected areas in India, together 5.26% of India. Compared to Europe, in Europe only 1% of their land is protected. 1%. Europe, whole of Europe, where you talk of Germany, Spain, UK, every country there. And in India, which is such a poor country compared to there, yet we have left aside so much. That's because of our culture. Finally, what I have not mentioned on this, because we are all to be credited for that, is that somewhere there is an umbilical cord between Indians and nature. Our lifestyles are that of conservationists. We recycle everything. You know, we have seen your shirt पुराना होने के बाद फिर उसका पोछा फाइल उसको जला के बर्तन भी कर सकते हैं. So that is our culture. When our refrigerator stops working, we give it to somebody who will use it as a cupboard. And everywhere else, and thoda bhi bigda, just put it outside, and that is taken by a crusher and dumped into a landfill. But in India, by default, our nature is like that. We don't kill snakes. In Bombay, I have rescued hundreds of snakes. Bombay is a financial capital. A lot of people come there to earn money. Yet, nobody wants a snake killed. So I used to get phone call. Now I don't get the time, but there are so many other snake rescuers, I'm sure in Goa too. What is there to kill a snake? It just takes 5 minutes. Or not in 5 minutes. One lathi and cut, the snake is gone. Yet, when a snake enters the house, the people in the house are sitting up on a sofa. Yes, sir, come on. Abhi aa raha hu. Then again in 15 minutes they'll call you, sir. तो मैंने बोला मेरे को 1 घंटा लगेगा. But they are worried. कि कब तक ऊपर बैठे रहेंगे? They are so scared. Yet they don't want the snake killed. Which is an amazing thing, and that I think is the biggest takeaway. That technology is amazing. Government is trying to do something. Yet the biggest victory for India and why conservation is such a big success here is because our culture is interwoven with nature. We worship all sorts of animals, from snakes to rats to tigers to elephants to peacocks to crocodiles. We love banyan trees. We take, so many people go around. We feed animals. And so this is where we are. So finally, from all my visits to different places in the world, interacting with conservationists all over, I think the one thing that separates India out from all other nations, obviously Nepal and Bhutan, I consider as very much like us only. They are also like us, and that's why there is wildlife there as well. But they are smaller, so I don't talk about them. But if you leave these, there is no other nation that considers nature as part of their own ecosystem. We don't think of nature or a tree as outside or something. The term wilderness is not in India. We don't think of wilderness. Wilderness is what where a city goer goes to enjoy. We don't think of that. We don't think that an elephant is bad for humans. And I can tell you, because see, we run a conservation organization. We work in so many countries, so many states. I have seen a mother sitting next to a dead son who is about 18-19 years old, trampled by an elephant in Karnataka. The village is all sobbing and crying, and because I was there and the forest department had to go because they have to do the panchnama and also compensation has to be paid and all that. It's a very tense situation. Think, for a family who's lost a bed earner and a young kid and a mother, the mother is hitting the son on his chest with anger. And what does she say in Kannada? Who asked you to go to the jungle at 4:30 in the morning? Not even once did she say, I want an elephant killed. Think about us. एक कुत्ते ने भी किसी को काट लिया ना, विजय वो साला कुत्ते को घुसा वजह से मारो. City में we have become, but the poorest the poor, they are losing animals, people to animals, and yet they are rationalizing it. This I've never seen. In America or in Europe, from a captive situation, like from a zoo, if 5 tigers escape, within the next 15 minutes, and these are captive animals, they don't even know how to hunt, the police will kill each one of them. A gorilla, remember that sad story of an idiotic mother who couldn't take care of the baby, and the baby fell into the gorilla's chamber. The gorilla came there and he was not killing, he was not aggressive, but they didn't want to take a chance, and gorilla has stayed inside that enclosure for years, and yet because he was going just close to see the baby, he was shot dead. यहाँ ऐसे कभी नहीं होता है. I mean, there are angry situations and sometimes media blows it out of proportion, but we actually go there, and because we work, so we actually go and meet such families. I know so many widows, I know so many mothers who are not angry with the forest. They are not angry with the tigers, they are not angry with the elephants. They just say that, you know, bad luck that we went there, we should have gone there. Now that is why India is where it is, the biggest, and animals don't lie. 70% of Asia's, all elephants in Asia are found in India. 85% of all one-horned rhinos in India. 100% of all lions, Asiatic lions are in India. And 70% of all tigers. So for a country with all these challenges and a planet with these challenges, if we have this today in the 21st century, then the world must come to us to learn. And that's why this is what the reality is, and this is just the tangible part. So India's forests are worth more than the GDP of Canada. But this means nothing, because what this is not the number of industries that are running from the water that is coming there. It is just the value of the trees standing there, and some of these soil and all those that can be measured. But the unmeasurables are 97%. So this is just 3-4% of what is measured. In reality, the value of the forest you cannot measure, because you cannot measure the positive impact it has on your psyche. Whenever you are stressed, all you want to do is go and sit in a gurgling stream. You guys will rush to the beach just so that you can feel the waves, or somebody will go to a hill station. Why don't we go and stay in front of airport? Why don't we go and do a vacation in front of CST railway station? We don't. We all go there, but that value we cannot measure. So what is the value of a child? Mother will say, invaluable. Similarly, this is just so that the economists are told that when there is a case, somebody will say, oh, this patch is wasting. Kya mil raha hai? Let us have a golf course. All the rich and famous of Goa will come here, play golf, and this land will generate so much money. At that point, you can show them that if there was a forest, then that forest would give the oxygen and so many other things like pollination, seed dispersal because of all the animals that are there, which is so much more than the money that you will earn from a golf course. So that's why we do it. It's called cost-benefit analysis that we do for dams also. So what is the justification of a dam? People say it increases GDP, but at what cost? So GDP itself is a flawed way of measuring things, which I don't want to get into, but if you are interested, we will do that. Finally, this is what I told you. 600 rivers originate from Tiger Reservoir. This is Panna Tiger Reserve in Madhya Pradesh. Just look at it. Beautiful. India's natural capital. We have so many different species, 25,000 plus species of flowering plants. So this is the biodiversity, and the animal that has the power to make people dance around in the tiger. You can see this example, and this is what we need to cash in. It supports so much the economy of the land changes. So just for you to understand, this is again for business people, because there is always an argument about forest and about conservation and development. Revenue generated in villages with tourism, 4 times that of non-tourism village. This is all proper research, not random. Revenue generated by 102 hotels and allied businesses in Ranthambore Tiger Reserve in 2017, 200 crores. Can you tell me another business that is renewable and doesn't impact the environment negatively and give you this kind of profits? There is no. Right? And so, conservation and eventually species, and then tourism, income to the local community. But tourism, the model where I run the tourism outfit, but the money from what I run, 95% should go to the local communities. Now that is the tourism I am talking about. So in Goa there are a lot of such outfits. So Bara, Gramika, all these guys are running some things where they are actually working with the communities. So they will go, there will be homestay, which is for the by the villagers, the food is by the women there, and the lion's share of the money goes to the villagers. If that kind of tourism is done, that's fantastic. Because then people want the forest because they earn from it. Obviously, the villagers know that forest is always healthier than living in the city. Finally, 1 rupee investment. So when people people say forest ko bachao, and this again, this development versus conservation battle that goes on, this is from real figures. What is the budget for Project Tiger? When you say 53 tiger reserves, how much is the money allocated to that? It is about 1300 crores. This one bridge that you see outside Mopa will probably be 2500 crores. Just one bridge. The government is spending 1300 crores only on 53 tiger reserves, from where nearly 400 rivers are either originating or are being fed. 300 rivers from these 53 tiger reserves. So many million people live in that because of the water there. So many million farmers have their farms irrigated because of that. So if you are investing 1300 crores, what is the return you are getting is the economy of the entire village. All those people living there, the rich and famous who are doing business. The ecosystem services are not the businesses. It is the pollination, it is the farming, it is the soil, water, oxygen, all that put together. If you value that, then 1 rupee of investment in managing forest gives you a return of up to 530, depending on the ecosystem that you are in. So Sundarbans, because the mangrove forest will have a different value. So forests from different areas will have a different, but nobody will be less than 200, which means profit is 200 times. Again, show me a business, ethical business, okay? Ethical, that can earn you 200 times the amount that you have invested in. So that is also an argument that can convince the Finance Commission that investing in forests is a great thing to do. Thank you for listening to me. I do take photos. My photos are only to make people fall in love with nature. I don't talk about all these bad and not so good things on Instagram. But do interact with me, do write to me. I'm there tomorrow as well. You can interact if you get ideas and questions. If you want some questions answered, then you can ask me now. Or if you will come tomorrow, yeah, please.
So as you said about those American zoos and American zoo agencies said they tigers are getting killed. Why don't we have the concept in India? Like, why don't we ban zoo? Why don't we stop the concept of zoo? Because wild habitats are being getting trapped there, and people are very pleased to see them, buying tickets and seeing them.
So yeah, I agree with you. Zoos are not a great place to keep wild animals. And especially in India where the zoos are really concrete, they don't have large spaces. So animals are actually mad. Once you leave a tiger in the cage, the tiger keeps walking. So it's actually mentally finished. So zoos definitely the way they are in India, but you should know that the government has closed down many zoos in the recent times. And it is far more difficult now to set up a zoo than it was 20 years ago. So yes, I agree. But zoo has some amount of, see, not everybody can afford to go to a forest. So the poorest of the poor, when a child is growing up, they go and see. But yes, as a concept, zoo is not a great idea if you are not going to create a wild habitat for them. Just, these concrete cages is not a good idea. But it's not easy. Zoos are not being built now. Whatever is there, and those animals that are going, nobody is replacing them either. But because of this conflict, so there is a lot of leopard and tiger conflict are happening, so they have to be caught. Now they are caught, if they don't display them, then how will they maintain them? Because they eat lots. So they have to earn so that they can be fed, right? So that's the reason why some safaris and zoos are coming up only for those species, because those species are difficult to see in Goa. So if you went to a safari in Goa, you are unlikely to see a tiger. But there are tigers in Goa. So if say there are conflict animals which are now caught and they are forced into a small cage, instead of that you have a safari where the tiger is left in the open, you go in a closed vehicle and you see the tiger. So it's a win-win on both sides. So that's the only place where captive animals are justified. Otherwise, I agree with you.
On outskirts of Bangalore, there are not zoos, they are not kept in
one enclosure.
Yeah.
So your vehicle goes in, one door shuts, then you go in, then the second door comes out. So thank you very much, but do send in questions if you have.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anish, for the very informative and enlightening talk on the sensitive issue on wildlife conservation. I now invite Dr. Nitin Sawant to propose the vote of thanks.
Okay, good evening. I will not waste time. Rather, Dr. Anish Anjaliya, let me, just brief you with a few points because as you have mentioned during your presentation, and you are aware about that tiger killing in Goa also, in retaliation where 3 cubs and 1 female was killed.
Yes.
Definitely, there are some notifications after that that compensations are to be given by the forest officials on the spot. And the circular was issued based on that where 25,000, 50,000 and 5 lakh if the life is lost. So Goa, definitely Goa government has been trying hard for doing that. At the same time, Goa government has also been the first state which went for identifying the private forest. Right? And of course I was a member of that last committee. So it was a great, I am very glad to learn a lot of things, but very shocking figures which you have given, especially during the COVID situation, which we thought was slightly different, but I think it was a great experience, understanding what you really have done and contributed for our nation. So I would take this privilege to thank, firstly let me thank the Sargaonkar family for, on behalf of my Vice Chancellor and the Registrar and of course my Dean and the Director VRPP, Professor Savita ma'am, that this chair has been introduced, and as Sir rightly mentioned, this is something unique and we have been trying for last 3 times we have had an interview and we did not get any postdoctoral. So maybe we will try our best. So I thank the Sargaonkar family for giving us this chair. Secondly, I would like to thank Dr. Anish for giving such a precious, important information on wildlife. Because I teach wildlife, I teach ecology, biodiversity. My students are there. They never ask questions. They have many questions, and they will definitely ask probably tomorrow. But I don't know why they are feeling shy to ask questions. So anyway, I would thank Dr. Anish for such a wonderful presentation and informative talk. It was very lengthy. I would like to hear it for another 1 hour, maybe for more than that. So I thank you on behalf of my Vice Chancellor sir, Registrar sir, and all the participants. I would also thank Sir Bhaskar Naik, whom I know for a long time. We have been together for on different occasions. Sir, thank you very much your presence and your support to this chair and guiding us for this particular wildlife chair. I would thank my thanks to Dr. Pinto here, who is sitting here. There are GPC neighbors here. Then I don't know, many more are there. But also I would like to thank my faculty members who are present here, and of course Dr. Samantha and all my dear students. I know you are getting late. I'm sorry, I will not delay. So I thank one and all who are present here, and I believe tomorrow you will again like to hear Sir more, and for last 3 days probably. I would like to personally interact with you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. With this, we come to the end of today's session. We'll meet tomorrow again at 3 p.m. here. There are refreshments served outside. Kindly help yourselves. Thank you. Have a good evening.